What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Champion Mindset, Finding the Way. I'm your host, Tommy Stiles. I am here with Dom Cardone. Dom, how you doing, buddy?
Good, brother. Just getting ready for the holidays. How you doing?
It's that time of year, man. Everybody gets sick and stressed, and that's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year.
Knock on wood, like I told you before. I'm running strong since July. I'm usually the guy who's getting sick after every travel and everything. So I don't know if
Yeah,
it's D plus or what I've been using. I feel great, thank God.
yeah, keep that streak going. So last episode we talked about our personal plans, what we're dealing with fixing guts and immunity and stuff like that. Got a lot of good feedback on that one. I think that helped people relate if they've had gut stuff or just adversity in general. So with that, recently I know you made a story on Instagram about rebounds. So the rebound from a show. We talk a lot about mentality on this podcast. How does that apply to what we do in bodybuilding, but also what we do in life? So the rebound is a process post-show. You could call it 8 to 10 weeks. Now you can have a great rebound and set yourself up to be in a good spot, or you can have a horrible rebound and set yourself up to be in a horrible spot. The choice is yours. That's the best part of it, is the choice is ultimately yours, and how you handle yourself day to day is going to dictate whether your rebound's good or bad. So I'll kind of turn it over to you. What traits in an athlete are needed to have a positive rebound?
So the other day I made a post of my story, for those that may have not seen it, about people not taking advantage of their rebound, certain characteristics or traits they may have or they don't have, that reflect on their, not only their bodybuilding but themselves. Um, when you go into a show, you have a goal of going into the show, and unfortunately, in today's time, people's goal is just the end result. Taking bodybuilding or whatever sport, bodybuilding serious year round, or thinking beyond the show is not even in their mind frame whatsoever. So for me, it's not only very important for somebody to take advantage of rebound because you could put on an enormous amount of muscle tissue to rebound. It's also a health thing as well. You don't want to blow up with a ton of water, put stress in your heart, put stress in your kidneys. It's just no good across the board. Um, but it's very easy, and I've done this before. And the reason why I know about this topic, so I can coach you, is because when I was 16 years old, yeah, I was young, but I did my first show. Parents took me and my family to the Florida Keys the day after the show. Um, and I blew up like 35 pounds in like 2 days. My mom has pictures of me sleeping everywhere. I was sleeping in public on benches. I was sleeping on a boat. I was falling asleep absolutely everywhere. It got to the point where I didn't want to do anything. But why? Because I didn't control my water intake or lack of water intake. I was eating everything under the sun, and I wasn't really thinking beyond the show. Even though I won and I kind of was thinking beyond the show, I was also too ignorant. I didn't know. Nobody told me. But it's still not an excuse. But I completely blew that rebound. And I learned from that, and I seen what other pros would do, and I'm like, why aren't they blowing up like 35, 40 pounds in a couple of days? Nonetheless, I had a friend, Mike, a good friend of mine. He was a type 1 diabetic. He was a very good competitor, middleweight competitor. I remember one time he rebounded horribly, and he was in the hospital for a week. So, guys, take care into your rebound. But what does your rebound say about you? Why are you bodybuilding? Are you bodybuilding for social media? Are you bodybuilding for an end result? Or are you bodybuilding, as we've said in this podcast, but because you love it? Are you short term? Are you looking for short term gratification or long term gratification? Are you in this to win? Are you a winner? Or are you in it just for the social media likes, or just to say you've done a show and you go into the gym and tell people you've done a show? Um, again, even in other sports, an athlete takes a loss or a win, they're right back to work right after. And you can have fun without shoving your face. Where this food focused thing comes into play does not reflect good on you as an athlete, because what you're putting in your mouth is going to reflect on yourself and how you view bodybuilding, you view your bodybuilding journey, career, whatever you want to call it. So, are you looking beyond the show long term? I know Tommy. I'll speak for him. The minute he got off stage, literally the minute he got off stage at nationals, he was like, "What's next?" He didn't ask me, "What do I eat?" He didn't ask me, you know, what do I? It's what's next. What do we have to do next to improve for the next show? And I love that. I was kind of a little taken back because he was so serious. Because I'm talking to everybody, but you were so serious, and I was like, wow, okay, like you really are ready to start improving. Like the second you got off stage, and I love that. Guys, even if you win, this should be your mindset. Because every winner eventually loses, and of course that's never the goal, but it's just a part of being in competition with anything in life. The best eventually lose at some point. The goal is not to lose, but the goal should always be to progress. Are you pushing that needle in progression in some way, shape, or form? This does reflect into your personal life as well, in my opinion, because let's say if you're in a business or you're growing your coaching, let's say you're a coach. Let's keep this related to fitness and bodybuilding. You hit maybe a goal amount of clients that you want to have. Maybe your client wins a show. Do you just say, screw it, I'm just going to do whatever I want now? No, that's not what you do. So it's very important to keep in your scope what is next for you. Again, not only just physique wise and health wise, but it's important, but for you mentally as an athlete, because again, you take away that brick that you're building in this house of discipline and consistency, that house is going to get weaker. Anybody that has done this after a show, it's very hard to come back from. Most don't come back from it until it's too late. So I don't know if that answered the damn question. I know I threw a lot of information in there. But what's your thoughts on it, Tommy? Sorry, my mind lately has been great, much better than the last podcast.
Byron, it's good. A lot to go off there. I think when we back it up, because I look at it as both a athlete and a coach, is my decisions define me, my choices, my micro choices day to day. Am I really going to admit to you as my coach or to my clients or to even anybody that, hey, I didn't have control of myself and my decisions with food and I ate completely like a dick for X amount of time? Did I blow it for an entire week? I think you have to have a respect, and I see this more and more with why people get into bodybuilding, like what's your why? I have respect for bodybuilding, the history of it, those that came before me. I mean, you came before me. You were someone I watched turn pro when I was first getting into bodybuilding. There was people in the early 2000s that are who I caught that's who got me into, I got the bug. I saw, Jay Cutler in magazines and I was like, I want to do that. But I instantly had respect for it. And I've developed that respect even to where I sit today. So to me, it's just a complete lack of respect for not only yourself, but for bodybuilding. The whole food focus thing, like, welcome to bodybuilding. Tell me one competitor down the stretch of even a prep who isn't food focused. We're all thinking of things that we would never think of. You're thinking of cheesecake topped with more cake, topped with ice cream. Like, your mind does weird things when you're pushing the human body to extreme levels of leanness. I've never met one person that doesn't have some degree of food focus. It's just learning to accept that and controlling it. It doesn't mean you have to cave into it. And, you touched on a great point of the show. When you have that date, your primal instinct is there. You're going to drive really hard towards that date and you won't mess up a thing. Most people down the stretch of a prep are animals. They don't miss in anything. But it's like they give so much energy going into that show that they blow their load, and then come the day after the show, it's all downhill.
Tommy, you brought up a good point, and I didn't even bring that up. Is that I don't want it. It's actually a very good point. Is even the best athletes get some sort of temptation or thought to want something to eat. Hell, all my preps, I followed food pages. I followed sushi pages. I remember I'd be on cardio following and looking for sushi places in Japan. Now, did I act in those thoughts? And I'm serious. That was like my thing. And I would tell myself, yeah, I'm going to go to Japan one day and I'm going to eat at this. And then, after the show, I'll go and follow these pages. So to put it more into perspective for people, Tommy made a really good point. Even the best athletes, say they're having a hard training session, no matter what sport it is, bodybuilding, whatever it is, they do get that little voice in their head where maybe I should stop. My body is in pain. Or you're depriving yourself. Oscar, one of my biggest mentors, will always say, you're depriving yourself. You're doing things, you're getting to a level of body fat that we're not meant to be at. We're doing things to our body that we're not meant to do. The brain is going all over the place, brain chemicals and hormones. So these thoughts of food and wanting to feed are actually natural to the body. Your body's calling, okay, I need food, I need sugar. It's normal, but it's important as the athlete to build up that house of discipline with those bricks that we've spoken about, of being able to, okay, I have those thoughts, I'm not going to act on it. It's cool to think about, but I can act on it. I'm in a prep. So going into your rebound, when you do act on it, you're subconsciously making it okay for yourself to accept these things, and you're making yourself weaker, essentially. So, when I have an athlete come out of a rebound, usually the night of the show, they can eat. The day after the show, water goes back up, they can enjoy some food. Monday, we're right back to it. And then we have planned strategic refeed meals, so they can enjoy family time. And but again, they're strategic. It's not eating junk every day. Because again, why did you just do all this cardio, take all these drugs, do all this training to just say, screw it, I'm going to do whatever I want? That's not how it works. That's not what any top Olympian has done, at least that I've seen and that I've known, especially the ones that are striving to get to a higher placing or win the Olympia or even national level guys. So that's a very good point, is that little voice will always be there in your head, but it's up to us to build up the materials to be able to fight those thoughts off. And again, this should apply to you beginner athlete, beginner bodybuilders, amateur bodybuilders, because you're building that up. Like I said, when I was 16, I completely blew it. I was young, but I still don't like to use it as an excuse. Did I learn from it? I absolutely learned from it, and I never did that again. So that's a very, very important takeaway note, Tommy. What else do you have on that? Because I like the points that you have on this.
Yeah, I'm always looking at it from the psychological perspective. I think, if you're someone listening to this and you've been fat in the past, or you come from being a heavy set background and getting in, this is the best shape you've ever been in. It should be coming off of a show. I can't understand why you would blow that for food. You've worked so hard. You've put in so much time, money. Your health already took a hit to a degree getting in that stage shape, especially if you were enhanced. Why you're just going to throw all of that it's like jumping off of the 52nd floor and just plummeting down when you could take the elevator one step at a time, or one floor at a time. So I think you have to identify if that's a weakness for you, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, this is a weakness. I'm going to have to set myself up for success by how I approach this rebound from a mental standpoint. But if you go into it, and I've seen competitors do this for years now, with you've been loading up on all these foods you want post-show, and you bring a friggin' briefcase to the show of all the stuff you're going to eat. You've set yourself up for failure by doing that. That's, again, are you a bodybuilder, or are you just someone who has an obsession with food? Identify that. I want to be a bodybuilder. That's what I've wanted to be since I started all this. I want to get better as a bodybuilder. That's why I met you the way I did coming off the stage at USA, is because it's not about, what 1 pound cookie am I going to have? What amazing dessert am I going to feast on post show? It's more of, when am I going to get back in the gym? What do I need to do next to start getting better? When am I going to do blood work? How long until I can start pushing hard in the gym again? At what point do I think the true offset? These are the questions that I run through in my head, and how am I going to go about what's next? Not, I set up my rebounds the same as far as how I'm going to attack it as an athlete. I go have a good meal post show. And I like fruit, so I add fruit to that. Maybe I'll get a dessert if I'm feeling it. Honestly, I think the longer you do this and the more you realize food is just a tool, I try not to create attachments to food. I'm not a diehard over sweets to the point where I'll just eat them endlessly. I might have something, but I try to find appreciation for what I have, and then I don't overdo it. I don't go buy 6 packs of Oreos, because if I have 6 packs of Oreos, I will eat 6 packs of, you know what I mean? Like
That's why
I'm not above anybody. I have all the same temptations other people have or clients tell me. I just know that if I put that in front of me, it's going to get eaten. So I don't put those things in front of me. But the Sunday after the show is my one day. You know, I'll go have a good breakfast where I'll eat way more calories than I need, probably 2,500, because I can eat a lot of breakfast food. Then I'll have a couple diet meals the rest of the day, and then I'll have a big dinner, usually sushi, a lot of rolls, a lot of soy sauce, and I'm going into Monday swole, but I didn't go crazy every hour on the hour. And then Monday, you know, with working with you, I'm back on a plan. It's all bodybuilding food, cardio's in, doing my steps, I'm training. It's all about starting to work forward and progress. And that it's not a surprise to me when 8 weeks post show, I'm up 35 pounds in the best condition I've ever been in at that weight, because I saw that in my head when I got off stage. I said, in 8 weeks, I can set a new conditioning point at a new body weight that I've never had before, clean out, get healthy, and then start a true off season and keep the momentum of a good prep rolling into the next one. It's all about momentum. And I look at it as, why would I want to screw all that up just for food?
Well, there's a saying that I learned earlier this year that I'm still trying to perfect. It's how you do one thing is how you do all things. And how somebody would approach coming off stage in their rebound is how will they do in their off season? How will they do in their next prep? So that's how I look at it as well. If you're going to treat that like shit, what tells me you as an athlete is going to do the same thing in the off season, or not going to do the same thing in the off season, or in your next prep? So how you do one thing is how you do all. And you know, again, Tommy, I'm the same as you. I would never buy anything pre-show because I know I would eat it. Hell, even now, I don't keep any junk food in my house. Why? Even if I wanted it, if it's there, I'm probably going to eat it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just there. There's no reason for me to have it there, and it makes me think. I don't go to shows unless I have an athlete competing. Last year I was at the Hawaiian class, Sean Ray Hawaiian Classic, whatever it was called, and it was a big show. And I remember walking up and down the halls at finals, and I'm watching these people with medals around their neck, and nobody really looked like they were in shape. A bunch of like physique competitors, even like the bot, and everybody's just in these circles, just eating cookies. Like they're eating cookies, and they're like making it like as if like they're getting off to these cookies, like. And I'm looking at these people, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" It's like you couldn't even wait till like go to like everybody was shoving their face, and like it was so vivid. It's so vivid in my head because it was these groups of people just shoving their face with junk, and I'm looking at their physiques, and I'm like, "No, this just isn't." Well, no wonder why you look the way you look. You know, I've just seen it. And it happens at all shows now. You see these bikini girls and these physique guys, and you know, even bodybuilders. They post on Instagram. They're backstage eating junk. Why? Why are you doing that? But again, how you do one thing is how you do all things.
I love that sentence. I actually put that on an Instagram story yesterday. And that's, again, it's perspective. I feel that what kind of coach am I if this year after shows, I didn't conduct myself properly after the show? And two, what do people in my city or my town, my bodybuilding culture that's here in the Valley of Arizona, what are they going to think about me and say to others if I show up to the show with a pack of double stuffed Oreos and all the desserts I could think of stuffed in a bag? Like and we can get into something else I want to talk about from here, but the perception others have of you, I care about that. I don't care about what people think of me because I'm trying to fit into a box, but I do want respect. I think those who got into bodybuilding when I did, and definitely before 10 years ago plus, you could say the same thing. Like you wanted to earn the respect of the guys above you in the gym, locally, on the message boards. There was an inherent unspoken thing that you just wanted to be respected amongst your peers with this thing that we all got into. And that's kind of been lost. And that's part of social media culture in general. It's not just bodybuilding. I've noticed that in a lot of different things. The for the love of the game has been lost. Like, why are you even doing this? Are you doing this just to eat Oreos? Like, is that your main purpose of when I wake up on a show day, I'm not thinking about food at all. Sure, I'm going to eat whatever you tell me to eat, but I'm thinking, like, it's such a different mindset for me than I feel most people have. And that's how I feel champions would conduct themselves. I mean, so, you're talking about, you've been to pro shows Backstage too. What is the scene like there? Is it guys just banging gummy bears and pre-workout and stuff, or is it a lot different than amateur show?
So, it is. I kind of get goosebumps. Like, I just got goosebumps because I'm like, listen, that chapter for me is done. But
Right.
when I go backstage at a pro show, I'm like, oh man, if only I'm that. Of course, that little voice in my head is like, if only, like the Cali Pro this year. I see all these guys; they're all hoodied up. Guys are like talking, but nobody has any junk food. Nobody's eating gummy bears or Oreos or anything. Everybody's just like, it's a very um, competitive, serious environment, and I love that environment. Like, even if they're not a great pro, they're still there to do it. They're there. Even their demeanor is the demeanor is just so different, and I love that environment. I love being backstage at pro shows. Um, I mean, aside from being around pros, it's just the demeanor, the energy. Nobody backstage is talking about what they're eating there for the show. They're talking about bodybuilding. They're either not talking at all, or they're talking about their prep or something bodybuilding related. And I love that environment. These guys are pros, and again, even if they're not a great pro, everybody doesn't have the genetics, or maybe they had a bad, whatever it was. That environment isn't there, and that gets me going. And then when the guys are lining up to go on stage, it's just a totally just different feeling, and none of that's going on. And even right after the show, what are they doing? What are these guys doing backstage after the show? They're drinking water.
Yeah.
I again, especially the pro shows I've been to this year, I don't see anybody backstage shoving their face with junk foods. Not, I didn't see one. I see everybody drinking water or getting clothed and leaving. There was none of this hanging around in groups and sharing snacks and this and that. And again, there's levels to this. And even back when I was competing as a teenager at the BMCC shows in New York, Steve Weinberger show. BMCC was a very prestigious place to compete at. It was where they had the New York Pro at the Beacon Theater. It was like a very like serious. Even the amateur shows were just very serious, and it reminded me of like a pro show. And then I see regional shows this year, and it's just anything but that. So it was cool for me for a young age to see the energy differences between then and now, even in amateur shows. But the pro shows, you don't see anything like that. No, I mean, I never seen anything like that at a pro show. Everybody's there to do their business and leave, and whatever happens, happens. And that's why those environments, for bodybuilding, excite me. What was I had another point I wanted to make on that. But yeah, but those environments are completely hell, it even goes on to national level shows now. You see people backstage just doing the same, that same. It's child to me. It's childish.
I agree. I think I I asked you that because I knew that was the answer, but also to kind of show people how many, like, it's so common now to hear a competitor talk about turning pro. The words "I want to be a pro" have come out of more mouths than not, especially in today's climate of competitors. Okay, you want to be a pro. You just heard how pros are conducting themselves. They're not eating Oreos at free will backstage, like in between prejudging and finals. They're not showing up to the show with suitcases full of food. It's okay to maybe pick, like, maybe you have something near and dear to you that you've deprived yourself of for the whole prep season. Create the excitement around that. There should be one or two things that like, hey, this whole prep, I stuck to my plan. My wife makes a really good pie. I'm going to have a big slice of that post show, and I'm going to enjoy it because I earned it. But just getting excited over garbage processed, gas station snacks. I don't understand that. Why you would you've just worked as hard as you possibly can, eating fish and greens most likely at some point, and you're just going to throw it all away for a Reese's. Like Reese's are going to be there every day until the end of time. You don't need the foods you're thinking about. And another point I see, and I've been guilty of this in my younger years, because as a male bodybuilder, especially, as soon as I'm off stage, it's just like, all right, I'm getting huge. You're not going to get huge that first week, and you're not getting as big as you think you're getting in your head, or what the mirror shows you with the gym pumps. It's a process, just like it was to lose all that body fat and get on stage. It's a process to rebound and put tissue on. You don't need 4 free meals a day. You are not Juan Morel. You do not need Baskin and Robbins every single night, because your post show, that little window that you're throwing away with all that sugar and sweets, you're making your rebound worse. You're shortening it, and you're doing a number on your health, which the goal of the rebound, like you mentioned first, is to get your health markers back to a point to where you can start a proper off season and push. So, we make all these points as a way to show you it's, how you do one thing is how you do everything. That is a great quote. I think a lot of people could live by. It's something I'm also trying to apply to every facet of my life, even down to like basic household chores I don't want to do, like dishes or cleaning clean the floors. It's like, man, how I do this dictates the kind of coach I am, or how I train in the gym. So trying to even talk shit to myself and not even be lazy around basic things is something that quote means to me. But this leads into something I wanted to talk about with, we talk a lot about what is the championship mentality and what is the way. What is the way? If you could build an athlete, let's not talk about physical genetics because that's a different component, but you can build an athlete, their mental genetics. What are some characteristics that you're putting in that athlete?
So I'm going to say the first name. There's a name that comes to my head, and that's Gary Turner. And many of you watchers may know who Gary is. He was bodybuilding for a very long time. I had the opportunity to work with Gary from last September to June of this year. Gary never had great genetics. He knows it. He was very honest about it. For his years most of his years competing, he was put down all the time. He wouldn't show up in shape. He wouldn't show up in shape because not because of his work ethic. Gary was as hardcore, the epitome of an old school bodybuilder. And I know this for a fact. I, grew up in New York. He lived in New Jersey. And Gary is somebody that is, again, not genetically blessed by any way, shape, form. Didn't have the genetics to get in shape, didn't have the greatest genetics for building muscle, didn't have the greatest shape, didn't have the greatest structure. But that man was so tenacious year after year after year after year. No matter what people on forums, we're going back to what people would bash him on forums, and then social media came, people would bash him on social media. But that he would just continually just feed off that, and he would stay focused on whatever path he was on. And Gary has every pillar of a championship athlete. Now, if that man had the genetics for a top Olympian, oof, nobody would stop him. Nobody would stop him. That man, like you, Tom, would literally eat fucking drywall off a wall if that's what it takes. I'm saying I love working with Gary. But he was also very aware of the fact that he didn't have the genetics. He wasn't made. He talks about it to this day. Gary had discipline, tenacity, consistency, perseverance, because he lost a lot. He lost most of his career more than he ever won. Mental fortitude, big time mental fortitude. You never catch that man cheating on a diet. Know that for a fact. Regardless of what people said about his conditioning in the past, he didn't have the genetics to get in shape, and two, it was coaching choices in the past. He was so relentless that, again, nothing nobody said or did would stop him. And I remember when we worked together, he's very similar. He's very similar to Tom. Execute the plan, and that's it. So when we started working together last September, I said, Gary, listen, I believe you could turn pro. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be a pro. He goes, really? He goes, I go, yeah. He goes, I know I've done all the work. I just feel like also too, nobody believed in me. And that's another thing too, is, sometimes with certain athletes, they need somebody to show a little more belief in them and give that push. That goes with any sport. Because without belief, without that self-belief and a championship hat, without that belief and having that instilled in them in some way, they will not be able to take it that far. Again, this isn't a man who's carried by genetics. His work ethic was insane, ridiculous. But was missing that little bit of belief, because you show up 10 years, whatever it is, not winning, not getting your pro card, it will eventually take a little bit of a stab at you. But he used John Meadows as inspiration. John Meadows was the same person. John Meadows didn't have great genetics. John Meadows had horrible genetics, structure-wise, and came in shape. That's because he worked incredibly hard and he had great guidance and knew what he was doing. But again, that's somebody who kept showing up and showing up. And that's the thing too, is you have to keep showing up, no matter what the outcome is. Those two guys would finish a show right back on it. And this kind of also ties into what we were speaking about before. John, people told, I want to have fun with my family. John would make time with his family every week, all the way up to the week of the show, to spend time with his family. Was he binging on food and eating food? No. There were certain parts with his prep where he would be able to have a refeed because he was that peeled. But John overemphasized that you can enjoy, if you have a family, a wife, kids, whatever it is, a significant other, spending time with them without having to shove your face with food. Gary was the same way, same exact way. Those two athletes, for anybody who's watching, again, Gary just turned pro this year. If you don't know who John Meadows is, go look him up. He has so many videos on YouTube. Like, I love John. He was a great support in my career. We never worked together, but he was a great support in my career, and somebody I really looked up to, especially in a moral way of how he approached the industry and his family and bodybuilding. Very hardcore, old school bodybuilder. So if you don't know who he is, go look him the fuck up. You should know who he is. But those two guys really stick out in my mind, because I'm not going to sit here and talk about, genetically elite bodybuilders with this topic that we're talking about, because, can genetics hold you back in bodybuilding? Absolutely. And most likely it will. But it comes down to the mental mindset of that athlete, like you just pointed out, Tommy, of them actually being the master of themselves and of their life and of their craft, and pursuing it at the highest level possible. And, hopefully eventually it does stick. And for those two guys, they both turn pro eventually. John competed a few times as a pro, just for fun. Gary will never compete as a pro. He's focusing on his family and his son's wrestling career. But that, to me, is what makes up a championship bodybuilder. I don't look at the genetically elite, the top guys that screw off as that example, because they're not. If you take that mindset and put it in somebody like a Ronnie Coleman, which that was a genetically elite guy who had that mindset. Couldn't turn pro for years, placing 16th, 15th, then went pro, placing last place at the Olympia, and then that's a genetically elite guy who had that mindset. So that is what makes up, to me, the mindset that is needed in a championship bodybuilder, a championship athlete, all those attributes that I explained. Because without those, if you don't have the genetics, don't ever consider it an option, because you're not going to get there. You're not. I promise you, you're not. No matter what drug you take, no matter how much drugs you take, no matter how much you train, without those mental attributes and characteristics, an athlete will not get there, especially if they don't have the genetics.
Yeah. And again, it's you have to understand what's on your plate. You don't need to obsess on, well, I get this question a lot from younger guys, like, how do you know if you have good genetics? Here's how you know. If in the first couple months that you start lifting weights and you blew up faster than everybody around you, and it was just easy for you, you really didn't even know what you were doing, you've got good genetics. If that didn't happen for you, maybe you're somewhere in the middle. The bottom line is you're not going to know what your genetic potential is unless you're willing to give bodybuilding a decade of time. And that's consistency. That's not just like, well, I did a show, so I was locked in for 20 weeks. And then I was completely scatterbrained. My training was here and there. I took a couple cycles. My nutrition was never on point. I did that for 20 weeks. And then I decided I needed to get in shape. So I'm going to start another prep and then lock in. you're a yo-yo bodybuilder. I see a lot of guys like that who they might have a fast track to where they get to a certain point, they win a show, and then they get stuck. There are third call-outs at national shows every year because they're not acting like professionals year round. Bodybuilding is 24/7, 365. I remember Jay Cutler sent Dusty and I a 2-a-day training split like 3 years ago. And at the bottom of it, he just put full-time bodybuilder, bro. And it was just the funniest thing to me. But it was also true. Like bodybuilding's full-time, no matter what. If you're a dad, if you have a 9 to 5, you're also a full-time bodybuilder if you want to get as much out of it as you can. So when I think about qualities and characteristics of a championship athlete in bodybuilding or out of bodybuilding, it's they do what they say they're going to do with their actions. It's not talk. If someone tells me like, hey, I'm ready to get huge, okay, I know how to do that with people. If you do what I say and work really hard, you will get on that path. I don't know what your definition of huge is, but it's all subjective. They check in on time. Professional athletes and champions do not miss their check-in day, and they definitely don't make excuses if they do. In 10 years of working with coaches, I have never missed a check-in, so I don't understand it when people miss check. I don't get it. You say you want this thing, but the one day I assigned you to check in, you didn't. That will never compete with me.
Tommy, how long does it take to check in?
Picture setup, take your pictures. There's 10 minutes of taking pictures and then copy and pasting your form right after, not 4 hours later, literally right after I take the pictures. I sit down, copy and paste the form. There's less than 5 minutes there, so 15 to 20 tops.
So is it a justifiable excuse for somebody to say they didn't have time?
No, you didn't make it a priority.
I knew you knew the answer.
Yeah.
I just want you to say it for everybody. Sorry to interrupt. I think I need to drive that home to people.
No, and if you're someone who's uttered the words, I want to be a pro, but you miss a check-in, no, you don't. You want to say those words to feel good in that moment. There's a little bit of dopamine that comes with it, but you do not want to be a professional because your actions are not that of a professional. And the mind trap of bodybuilding is you can have the actions of a professional and you still might not turn pro because, again, we talk like genetics do come in at some point, but certainly not at the level of most of the listeners in the audience out here. To piggyback off that more, you mentioned tenacity with Gary. Like, it's one thing to say you want to win a show or say you want, like, it's another to how you go after it. You need to get up every day and act like the winner of that show, or act like the person you want to be when you get off stage after that show. I think about the stories Shelby Starnes talks about where he had something written on a Post-it note in his apartment. What would the overall winner do? That's how I ask myself that type of question all the time with everything. What would someone who I aspire to be like be doing right now? What do I think they're, even if I don't know? I'm really good friends with Turner. He and I are super close. I think about him, like, what would Turner do? Not in the sense of like, I want to be just like, I'm my own man, but at the same time, like, he's been a champion. He's coached champions. He's my friend. Anybody that I'm friends with or I'm close with, I care about how they view me. I care about how they would speak about me to others when describing me. Hey, what do you know about Tommy? Man, Tommy's obsessed. He works really hard towards what he puts his mind to. If he says he's going to do something, he does it. If he says he's going to show up somewhere, he's there. He's got your back. If he's like, that's the kind of speak I want about me. Not, yeah, actually behind the scenes, Tommy eats like shit. He's a cheater on his diet, or he can't, you know how many guys we know that can't stick to a diet, and it's known, it gets around. I mean, there's a guy we both know that should have been Mr. USA 2023. He wasn't even in the show. So you want to talk about genetics? There's a lot of guys that you can outwork in bodybuilding and beat a lot of people that maybe you shouldn't on paper if you're mentally stronger than them, because there's a lot of guys who have great genetics who, because they've never had adversity, because it's been an easy path for them, they're weak. They crumble. 8 weeks out from a show, they start cheating, and then they show up at maybe 85% of what their 100 could be. Gary's the definition about working out last, and you have to have patience, you have to have passion. That's two things that are needed in an athlete. And I think patience is what builds passion. You're not going to know you love bodybuilding until you just spend time and time and time again going to the gym, eating your meals, prepping your meals, all these repetitive habits. A good bodybuilder cares about the little details, but they don't care about it so much that they become neurotic. There's a way to swing that pendulum back to the middle and just do what needs to be done. It's very simple. Check your boxes every day. What do I need to do to be the best? Do those things, but you don't need to, where I see a lot of people go wrong, and I was this way at one point too, you start to get so obsessive that you try to micromanage yourself, and then you implode because you stop enjoying it. It's not, again, simplify it. Those are some of the traits I would put into a champion athlete. And I also think, just from my baseball days, that champions do extra. In bodybuilding, that's doing extra has a line, but I'll give an example. So like I was doing cardio, say I was doing 20-minute sessions in prep. I always did 21 minutes. I don't know why. I've always done that in a lot of things. Like if a baseball coach told me to take 50 swigs, I took 60. I've always done a little bit more, just to be like, well, I was going for 50, but I did 51, or I was going for 20 reps, but I really was going for 21. I never want to just stop short. I never want to stop at the finish line. I want to run through it. That's something that I, for whatever reason, picked up when I was younger, and it's just stuck with me in everything I do. It doesn't mean I was doing, you said do 6 sessions of cardio for 20 minutes. I didn't do 12. I'm not talking about that. But a champion, I believe, will go the extra mile in everything that they do. And that's what makes them a champion.
Just to drive that, like Tommy said, there's a line to that. So guys, don't start doubling your cardio.
Yeah.
That's also backfiring quite a bit. But there's another trait that adds into that, and it's adaptability. Champion athletes, champions, and whatever a businessman knows how to adapt, because you just made a great point about being neurotic and getting obsessed with the details. And there's a fine line in that. Things in life will happen. It could range from something happening with your car. You're going to say, fuck your whole day because your car broke down or whatever. And, people will die. And I'm going to use myself as an example here. Adaptability. One thing Oscar always tried to really pound in my head. Champions always adapt. No matter what life throws at them. Sure, we want this clear, smooth path where everything's just clicking perfectly. But, in your teenage years, that's easy. Maybe your early 20s, easy. But as you get older, life becomes life. You become an adult. You have to do adult things. And learning how to adapt to either be adversity or the simple day-to-day things that can pop in. Simple day-to-day things in life that can pop up. It is very important, because if you let these things throw you off and you don't adapt to whatever is happening in your life, it could throw you off indefinitely. And learning how to adapt is another skill that takes patience. It takes time. Some people just have it, but some people don't, where the slightest thing will throw them off, and they're just, maybe they don't mean to say screw it all, but it just happens because they don't have that skill of adapting. I'll use myself as an example. In the New York Pro Prep, my first and only pro show, unfortunate the way it went, but it was what it is. My mother goes into a coma 6 weeks out. She was dealing with cancer for years, whatever. My nationals prep, never missed a meal, never missed a training session, still happened to be there. But 6 weeks after the New York Pro, she goes into a coma. Remember, I was training with Oscar. I get a text, think you should come to the hospital. I go there. She's in a coma. I'm being told she's going to die. Some people would think this is extreme. I don't, because it's very simple. I had my meals with me. What is me not eating how is me not eating going to help the situation? It's not going to change anything. How is me not bringing my food or me going and eating a burger going to help the situation? That whole prep, the whole last 4 weeks of that prep, I lived in a hospital. I literally lived in a closet. We found an empty closet, put all that stuff in there, and I would go and sleep in the closet. Oscar would bring me my meals to the city. If I didn't run, whenever I ran home, I would get my meals. If I wasn't able to, he would bring them to me. Still was training, still was doing cardio. Was this the most optimal thing to do? No, I should have backed out of the prep for the sake of being competitive and push it off by a few weeks or so because I showed up completely horrific. But I didn't want to do that because I remember when even the day of her funeral, I didn't miss a meal. I was eating my meals there. I was still able to spend time with my family, be there for my family, be present. Why does any of these events, why do I have to stop? Again, would it have been wise for me to take a step back, stay on plan? Let's push the show back 3 weeks, 4 weeks, get things back together because the stress was immense, but I didn't care. Again, is that the smartest thing to do? No, but I'm using the situation of adapt. I was still adapting to the situation. I never missed a training session. I never missed a cardio session. I never missed a meal. I never missed an injection. I never missed an oral. I didn't miss one thing, not one thing. And I remember it was about 2 weeks out. I was like, I had a weak moment. I called my dad, and I'm like, I think I should, back out of this show. I don't know if I want to do it. He's like, no, you finish what you start. And right away, I'm like, that's how I was raised. I was like, okay, shit, let me get out of this weak mind moment. But again, I never missed anything. So I'm using an extreme detail to drive this home. But if I can take this extreme situation and not miss a damn thing and still step on stage, again, far from my best, but I still did it. Why are all these people backing out of preps or coaching or whatever it is they're doing because of the most minute things? And that situation made me realize a lot of things in life are really minute. So having that adaptability as an athlete and a human being, because again, this could far stretch outside of bodybuilding. You're coaching, business, family, whatever it is, you have to adapt. My dad was still able to take care of a family and work even when his house burnt down with no insurance because it lapsed. His wife dies. He goes completely broke. Never once did he not do what he had to do in life. So that's another extreme example. So that's why when people come to me with these crazy situations that they have to stop, I'm like, I feel bad for them later on in life when somebody does die. I feel bad for them when something extreme does happen, because how are they going to handle that? They're not. And again, this stretches far outside of bodybuilding. But the lessons I learned bodybuilding through these situations, I did lose track of that for a bit of time. I did. And that was my own fault. But I didn't forget about them. I started implementing back in my life. So having that adaptability and being aware, if it is not a strong point for you, be aware of it. Because it is super, super important to be able to navigate through life with adaptability, not only as an athlete.
Yeah. I think, you talk about adaptability. I'll add a couple other words to that. I think I heard it from Conor McGregor first, like years ago, but improvise, adapt, overcome. Those are 3 words that I've always applied to any situation when, what am I faced with? I got to improvise. I have to pivot my direction that I was going for whatever reason. We'll use the gut health example. Like I had a plan. It was locked in, Nationals 2024, got my GI map. And it's like, you could stay on that path and not be your best, which that's not a champion mentality. So the real champion mentality is knowing that I have to pivot and go a different direction. That's improvise. Adapt. You just described what that is. Adapt to like no one's coming to save you. The situation that I'm in is what I'm in. Same with your situation. You would not be the coach you are and the man you are today without having done that situation the way you did it. If you would have quit that prep, even if it would have been the right thing to do from a competitor standpoint, you wouldn't have all of the things that it taught you and all of the skills that you sharpened having did it the way you did it. So you'd be willing. So that's why, and what's practical isn't what's optimal, because it takes extreme reactions to extreme situations to learn the lessons that we're meant to learn from them. Is it the best way? No, but I've never met one champion who's mentioned balance or a not extreme approach to getting to where they became a champion. Kobe Bryant said he knew guys were training for 4 hours. He trained for 8 hours a day. Michael Phelps for 4 years before his first Olympic gold medal run. He said what he did wasn't rocket science. It was just he swam every day for 4 years straight. A lot of guys took days off. He was lapping them every day. He didn't take off. That's all it is are you willing to do more than the next guy? And if you are a guy that knows you don't have good genetics, you have to be that guy. You can't be the guy that does the bare minimum and takes holidays off. Like, I have Tupperware on holidays, off season or not. That's just who I have to be to get to where I want to go. Or where I want to go isn't where I actually want to go. I just want to talk about it to get clout. But my actions and who I am when I look in the mirror and who I am when I go to bed at night are what I care more about than how someone perceives me on Instagram based off what I say I'm going to do. Overcome. If you wouldn't have overcame that extreme situation in the way you did, again, you wouldn't be the coach you are today. You wouldn't be the man you are today. And that situation, even, me knowing that as someone who works with you is like, that's what makes you a good coach is like, hey, this dude went through this and didn't quit his prep. There is nothing on this planet that I could throw at him and he would respect. Is like, yeah, you should quit your prep because I didn't quit my prep when my mom was dying and I was living in a hospital, but you should quit yours for whatever reason you're telling me. Like, that would never be the discussion. So, it's part of your brand is like, hey, I'm Dom Cardone. I only did one pro show. Unfortunately, that's how life played out. But the way I got to the stage, it was the way a warrior would win a battle. And I think that's part of your brand. And anybody who I talk about respects bodybuilding the way it should be is going to see that, and that you're going to pull that out of them to get to their goals, which is why, you had a good year. You won a lot of fucking overalls, pro cards, you got pro wins, Olympian. Like, it's no secret why you had a good year, because of how you do everything, or how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. It did take me a bit of time to kind of build those skills back up because I did back off for a while. Again, that was my fault. But I knew retiring from bodybuilding last year, I set goals for last year and this year and absolutely annihilated every single goal I set for myself. But that was because I took all those lessons I learned and applied them. I think I'm not perfect by any means. Things are still being worked on. But those are things that will carry on for the rest of my life. And I hope that those listening take something home from what we're saying and apply these same principles and thought processes, or become aware of maybe some weaknesses, maybe become aware of some weaknesses that they have that we're talking about. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad athlete. It'll make you one if you're aware of it, you don't do anything to change it. So awareness is key with all these things, identifying the weaknesses, building up those skill sets. Because like anything in life, the things that we're talking about, a lot of us don't have it. A lot of us have it. Some of us had to work on it. So ultimately, in the end, it's up to you to identify these things and work on them.
Yeah. One last thing I want to ask you and just kind of brush over before we get off here, so we're coming up on an hour, is there's a saying, and it's in all walks of life. It has nothing to do with just bodybuilding in particular, but it's comparison is the thief of joy. What do you think of that?
I honestly have made a big learning lesson out of that for myself. I never did it bodybuilding because I always had this thing with running your own race. I also had great mentors from a young age to guide me and put things into perspective. So bodybuilding, that was never a thing of mine. I always ran my own race. I was like, I'm always going to show up in my best, put in the best effort I can every day. But in coaching, that was a thing for me for a while. I knew I had the abilities of the coach. It took some building up to do. But I would always sit back and wonder, why does this guy, and I'm being very open here, why does this guy have this caliber of clients and I don't? Why is this person, winning all this stuff and I'm not? And again, it was an ego thing as well. Of course, it always goes back to ego. But even before this year, I had a great few years of coaching, but I wouldn't get happy over it. I wouldn't get proud over it because I was always like, okay, but this coach is doing X, Y, and Z. Why am I not? So going into this year, I had to completely eliminate that. I think starting martial arts was a big thing in that too, because I started as, again, never did it before. So I knew going into that, I can't do that, like, especially in that. So why can't I apply that to other parts of my life? So again, going into this year, I'm like, I'm going to run my own race as a coach. I am going to completely take that element that I've been thinking about for a while, remove that, because it absolutely is true. Gratitude and appreciation of what we do have is one of the greatest things we can ever live by. One of the most beautiful things we could ever live by, not just bodybuilding, but anything in life, is being grateful for what's in front of me, being appreciative for what's in front of me. Because how can we attract more and do more if we're not grateful for what we already have? Dude, I had an amazing few years of coaching as a coach. My first few years doing it full time. But going into this year, I knew I needed to really dial in myself on a mental level that was different than any other level I had to be able to show up better for all you guys as my athletes. And that was one of the things, is comparison absolutely is a thief of joy. You look at social media, you see all these people doing, all these what seems to be great things to you, but you can't compare yourself to others. Everybody's at a different chapter in their life, or a different level in their life, but that's their life. That's not your life. It all goes back to running your own race. And me going into this year, I was like, okay, I have all my chess pieces laid out of who's competing in what shows, and I know there'll be more added on. I need to fully focus and put my energy, because energy, where you place it, where you pour those into those cups, is important. I can't put my energy into comparing to other coaches. I can't put any energy. All my energy had to go into how my athletes are going to perform this year, how I am going to apply the knowledge I have, how am I going to identify and approach every situation, and that's all I did. I had blinders on this year as a coach. Like, I knew win or lose, I needed to keep that same mindset. And there was points in different years, if somebody didn't do as well as I want to, that little voice would come into my head, but fuck that but, no. Remember the path that I set on this year that led so many people to success, and keep on that. And it worked. That is exactly a learning curve that I had to go through for myself this year personally. And for people that are competing, it works the same thing for you guys. You see people on social media, they're blowing up, or they're reaching X amount of weight, or they're winning shows. That's not you. They're at a different point in their bodybuilding journey or career. Focus and run your own race and do everything that you have to do, and you will get there. Hopefully. Again, that's always a hopefully there. Genetics always going to play a part, but it has to be a patient and consistent effort, and long-term marathon, never a sprint. Because if you're so stuck up into comparing yourself to other success, you're never going to be able to realize what's in front of you and be aware, and be able to hold yourself accountable. So that is a personal story I have of me that relates back to, comparison being the thief of joy.
How many years had you been coaching before you learned that lesson this year?
So I started coaching at 16, not by choice. It was a
Right.
side thing for a while. I went full time with it in March 2018. So
Right.
let's say took me 4 years to really, I would say 4 years, because I went full time with it 2018, to really learn that lesson and realize, what game am I playing here? Am I playing somebody else's game? Am I running somebody else's race, or am I running mine? And then look at the, humbly speaking, look at the effects of that this year. That was a big thing for me this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, as someone who was a part of it, it was awesome to witness, just as not for my own, my success, but as just everybody across the board. It's like every weekend it was you announcing a new winner. It's like, oh, another dude, and he's peeled. It's like, that's your trademark now. And that's not to divert too much, but when you're going to attract guys, like, that's how I was attracted to you, was I saw the long-term work that you put in with Ross, and it was like, that's what I want to build. I'm not Ross, I'm Tommy. I'm going to work with Dom as Tommy, but I know I can do whatever this dude tells me to do. You have to know your strengths. I know I can do whatever I'm told to do. I know mentally there's there's nothing that I'll allow to break me. I'll find a way to get through. Anything physical, I'll find my ceiling genetic wise at some point, but I haven't tapped into it yet. So it's just a matter of, I tie this into you specifically because it's like, it's a brand thing. It's who you are, who you were as a competitor, and who you are as now an MMA athlete translates into who you are as a coach, which is going to translate into the type of people you attract to work with you. Obviously, people see success. They're like, I want to work with that guy because he's been getting a lot of pro cards. But take it a step deeper. I look at the guys that he's turning pro. What are the characteristics about them that might have been why they turned pro? Relentless, tenacious. Chris DiDomenico comes. How does he train? How do the guys train that work with the guy that's having all the success? With reps in reserve, or like animals? They're all animals. Everybody that you work with, pretty consistent across the board of how we all train. So my spin on comparison is the thief of joy. Is I think all the things you said are great. I had to learn it too this year from a standpoint of, man, like Marcus Rule is my idol. I named my dog Rule after him. But that's not my game. I don't have the joint structure. I'm not of German descent. It's just never going to be in the cards that I will be Marcus Rule or even be half as big as Marcus Rule. So I got to run my own race. I can't focus on the scale. I got to focus on, and one thing I can give you credit for that you drilled into my head is quality over quantity. I mean, I've wanted to see 300 on the scale since I was 17. I still do. If it happens, it happens, but it's not something that I'm basing my career off of as being like, I have to get to 300 at all costs. But comparison is the thief of joy if you allow it to be. In my experience, the way I try to look at it sometimes is, I do compare myself to people I compare myself to the guys winning at the amateur level turning pro. But you have to, it takes skill to learn where you have to know where you're at. If I'm a first year competitor, I'm not comparing myself to guys turning pro. They're way ahead of me as far as time served. But what I can compare myself to is what are those guys' habits? What are they doing? What are some of the, like, I want to ask those guys questions about, what are you eating every day year round? How often are you? I want to know about their habits. What do you do when you wake up every day? What time are you going to bed? That's the stuff I think you can use comparison as a way to level up. Absolutely. I compare myself to people like, Michaela Aycock's a prime example. She's the female Dorian as far as execution, doesn't miss. I want to compare myself to people that are meticulous and obsessed, and they're not finding success by accident. They're working towards it. So I think in the experience you gave, absolutely. I'm not comparing myself to someone with a Lamborghini, hating my life because I don't have a Lamborghini. I love my life. I'm grateful for what I have. I'm a minimalist. I could have less than I have and still love my life. I'm comparing myself in terms of, where do I want to be? What are the guys and girls above me doing that I'm not? And that's how I'm going to compare, and that's what I'm going to make improvements on.
I love that. And I did the same thing as a teenager. When I would, what bodybuilders, that's why I used to love the day in the life on like RX Muscle and MD, when they would show like the top pros back then. Kai was a big one for me.
Yep.
And as a teenager, I was like, okay, I'm going to be like Kai. I'm going to be like Dorian. Like, I remember I would look forward to waking up at 4 in the morning as a 16-year-old teenager and going to bed by 10, 11 o'clock at night and going to the gym at the same time. And I just remember that feeling. Like, what are the guys, what were they doing that made them so successful that I wanted to do? And that was a big thing for me. Unfortunately, today we don't have many of those models for these young guys up and coming. Again, a whole other topic. But that is absolutely a perfect and healthy way to compare, is what are they doing that I can do to hopefully get to the level, or maybe never get to the level. Let's be honest, I would never be a Kai Green, but I knew I would never be a Kai Green. But the way he conducted himself as a bodybuilder, even with having no money, I was like, damn, if he can do it, I can do it. I'm a teenager. Like, I didn't care. So I absolutely love that comparison. You find people that inspire you in some way. What attributes do they employ in their life that I can use? What habits? And that was a big thing for me. I would watch Day in the Life of Kai Green and MD when he was broke, still living in the projects. Dave Palumbo shot it. It's still on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. It's 2 parts. remember being a 16-year-old watching that every single day. The same thing over and over. I still watch it from time to time just to have that same feeling. I watch it every single day. He took the subway to work. He went and bought all his fish at the supermarket. He would go up in the elevator that stunk like piss. Training in a dungeon gym. And Oscar was in the video as well. But that is, if someone compare yourself to people, guys, as Tommy said, look at the habits that they're doing, the actions that they're taking, and take bits and pieces and employ them into your life. Don't look at it and take away from, you know, yourself in an unhealthy manner. But also, too, if you're going to look at them for those habits and actions, use them. Don't just talk about them.
Yeah. So like, share, comment, subscribe, you know, drop comments down below. What do you guys want to hear us talk about? Anything that you relate to and anything that we've just went on about for an hour, you know, share that. If there's value that we're bringing, that's the goal of all this. This was a good one, man. I'm already sweating, dude. I'm ready to tackle the day. So this is we'll get this one up. Christmas will probably have passed when this one will be up. So wishing all you guys a good holiday season, safe travels. If you're traveling, enjoy the family time. But most importantly, you know, don't let this time of year derail you if you have goals. Stay on your plan, stay true to what your goal is, finish the year strong, and create that momentum going into 2024 to tackle that year's goals. So for Dom Cardone, I'm Tommy Stiles. This has been a champion mindset, finding the way, and we are out of here.